Companies have been looking to front-load imports as President Trump escalates his plans for tariffs on a wide range of products and companies. I guess we'll see. Countries. Joining us now, Gene Soroka, Port of Los Angeles Executive Director. It must be hard to do that. I guess that you just maybe skew some of your ordering plans in anticipation of things that may or may not ever come to pass.
Yeah, good morning, Joe, and that's exactly right. So from the campaign trail last summer, folks started hearing about tariffs. How do I plan for this? What does it mean to me? And when do I react? We've had about 7 consecutive months of peak season volume, much of that in anticipation of what tariffs could mean, and could I leverage my price down before they hit?
In what areas? Tell us where you're seeing the concentration of companies doing that.
Mostly we deal in the Trans-Pacific theater, so the cargo coming in from Asia, but particularly China, because that was discussed a lot in broad context.
Across the board?
And that's the thing, because what we heard was maybe a 60% tariff levied on all goods from China, 10% on all $3 trillion worth of inputs. So coming from China, furniture, toys, electronics, household appliances, the gamut. And it's usually the big guys that try to do that. It's the small to middle folks that have to be a lot more nimble.
So the big guys that are doing this, is it increase the demand for these things near term?
It's increased the flow of goods coming in and moving through the supply chain. Warehousing vacancies have shrunk a little bit, meaning that the warehouses are pretty full, but still manageable. The trains running to the Midwest are full. How that inventory then moves out to the American consumer remains to be the question.
Because where I'm going with that is something that Andrew and I have disagreed on. If the demand for these things...
I don't disagree on anything.
Not anymore. He's turned 48. Earlier this week. I don't know if you were watching. It's coming along. And we've been together how long? Longer than many marriages. But where I'm going with this is this. I'm asking about increased demand. Has this caused any increase in prices of the things you're talking about? His point is that we may already be seeing some inflationary pressure from anticipated tariffs. When we had less than a month of the Trump presidency, and we had a hot CPI number, and people said this is Trump's fault, eggs are Trump, bird flu is Trump's fault. I'm saying that's kind of hard to do when it was basically he was only president for 11 days of that January report. Andrew, come on. So, but if tariff anticipation is everywhere, then maybe there could be something to it. Is there any inflation that we saw in recent numbers that are tariff anticipation?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's not one lever that you pull that says, okay, suddenly this is the way it is. Now, okay, if OPEC brings down production, suddenly your local gas station raises the price before that product actually hits the street corner, different discussion, right? But folks are getting nervous.
You don't believe that there's parts and supply hoarding that's taking place? I mean, we've heard from the CEO of Ford, and I keep hearing from others anecdotally, that they're racing back and forth between the Mexico border right now to try to, hoard as much stuff in the country in anticipation of something, and that's got to have a cost.
Yeah. The amount of cargo that's come through, again, more than 900,000 container units, 7 consecutive months, means there's more inventory in the country. Can I buy it at a better cost now in anticipation of that potential tariff? Sure. Is that added inventory right now an additional cost? In some ways, yes, because you've got a higher cost of borrowing. Depending on your terms of sale with the manufacturer, can I buy that product on my books after it's out the warehouse door, or do I have to buy it once it leaves the factory in Asia? So each company is different. I don't know that the elevated inventories right now are adding to inflation when I go to the store today.
Oh, I don't think they are, because I think part of the other problem is that who's going to have to eat this cost? Most of these companies, which is then going to hit profits. See, that's where I think, and this goes to what we saw yesterday with Walmart. So it may not be inflationary per se in it that the cost gets passed on to the customer, but if the cost gets passed on it's going to hit somebody. That's all I'm saying.
And that's the conversation that's happening today, Andrew. What does it mean for me? How do I react, and when? There are negotiations happening between procurement executives today and their manufacturers in Asia. Okay, with the tariff now, can I get a little discount? Do I have to move from this location to support my sourcing from another location? And if I'm getting pushback to push this down, whether I'm a parts supplier or I'm selling directly to the American public, do I have to take a little hit myself, to your point about the margin play? So all of this is tabletop discussion today with everybody we're dealing with.